And episode 2 of Final Fantasy VI, heading towards Figaro Castle. Okay, location with... not like that. Location with very grand and awe-inspiring music, because, well, it's a big castle. And it's also quite important location in the long term as well. And that guy mentions something about moving the castle, which is quite impressive idea. Oh, and like in many other, not just JRPGs, but with many other games as well, it begins by having a chat with a king. And here's 2 thrones. King Edgar of Figaro is quite important character. Yep, Edgar is a womanizer, or then again, or you could say also say that he might have a quite big need to have a queen in his castle. Well, which got much... Yeah, they got magic, and also the fact that they are making quite vast use of it. So it is time to make the quite common Final Fantasy thing of loot the castle once you find it. And of course there's also, well, and that store contained a couple of items I could actually, they would be a little trick I could use, but it ain't that important. Buying all the necessary items and stuff. So, yeah. God's big hint that the game is actually that the castle got a lot of big important technology. And there's a mention of ancients, which are also quite common trope in Final Fantasy games. Some sort of old lost civilization, which if didn't have magnificent amount of technology, they would have very powerful magics indeed. And yeah, Figaro is a castle built right in the middle of a desert. It's quite... why it would be called Figaro, I don't know. But this might be... well, this is not the first Final Fantasy game which does that, but there's actually, you could say, political entities in this game already, different states and nations and all that, making this much more, well, making the world of this game much more, I think the word would be, term would be, feel more alive and real because of political alliances being in existence and all that. Final Fantasy 1 felt very much world at the brink of complete collapse, so it was not that, you could say, powerful world, you could say. Oh yeah. A twin brother of the king. I'm quite certain that because it's them being brothers is quite actually important thing. He might be something like a identical one. Not just regular twin, but identical one. Of course, then it would have been much more, you could say, important, noticeable. So let's take a rest just anyways. Not that there was need to, but it's just to show that that this place has. Yeah, and Terra's quite, you could say, taciturn. She doesn't talk much, mostly because of her amnesiac state. So what? So where would the guy need to get going? Yeah, all kinds of. Yeah. Well, if somebody would have, so let's have a. Well, it's impressive. Oh. Now that was an evil laugh. So he's some sort of, this Kefka guy is some sort of diplomat and doesn't seem to be friendly at all. Oh yeah, and now court mage. Well, if somebody of status of court mage comes to ask about one specific girl, she is of importance. So yeah, she really is not the one to, not something of a mindless. Oh yeah, those were, you could say, threats of quite. Oh, but it's quite obvious that Edgar is quite active royal person of royalty, in that he does lots of political and negotiating and all that kind of things by himself, in addition of being an engineer. So the only path to take would be in here. And it looks like that amnesiac Terra has been made into, well, she's apparently becomes being a pawn or piece in a game by many players, and she's potentially very powerful. And the castle is alike. Oh yeah, that's quite very efficient method. And the only moment in the game where the in the game where the chocobos actually have any kind of plot meaning. Yeah, the sinking castle. And Kefka wasn't along, so he's stuck in the middle of a desert. It's a bit spoiler, but unfortunately he doesn't die though, so it's a chase. And judging by the speed, Magitech armors are real fast. Ah. And Locke can actually do some stealings. And Edgar's got tools, which, well, they are something like a area of effect attacks and all that. So let's just use the healing spell. Oh, and it prompts a little moment of plot. It's basically something which Terra can do. She doesn't know how, but she just can do it. Oh yeah, and yeah, being able to use magic is quite big plot matter in this game. That fight gave me nothing. So they had to run around just to annoy Kefka even more. Yeah, he got a temper tantrum. Caught mage, caught clown. Well, oh yeah, at least one of them was a very bad person. And now you can admire the Mode 7 mode of the game, allowing just to nice 3D landscape, walk around and admire the map in full 3D mode, although the map is actually flat, but still full 3D view of the chocobo riding. Real nice effect. So let's just... And chocobo sound effects are... Well, they've always been a bit various in how they are done. But got inside here, so it's time to head towards to South Figaro Cave. And that's a recovery spring with a big turtle in it. And this is a place where, yeah, you'll be needing there'll be lots of editing will be happening in this place because of quite many random encounters around here. So there'll be quite lots of that either. They are important. Although I would say that the Edgar's auto crossbow at this phase of the game is quite useful, and it's also real nice to notice that the Final Fantasy IV, actually no, well, not Final Fantasy IV, but well, the stealing command has become more and more useful over these games, because in earlier ones it was really down to very bad luck, especially in the Final Fantasy IV. In that game, steal was practically useless ability, but in this one it actually, well, it ain't that useful, but it still is repeat cycle of just using Edgar's auto crossbow to one-shot wall mobs. It's just really handy in this case. And I do say that this is actually also quite challenging game, because, well, not at the beginning of course, because there's just matters are just so simple about gameplay wise, but it will get much more, you could say, complicated and challenging with all the multiple parts enemies, counter attacks, and all that kind of unpleasant nonsense. And also it's really nice to know that the Terra is not ridiculously weak in physical sense, that she can actually hit quite well physically as well. So the characters in this game are quite interchangeable regarding their abilities, what they can do, at least at the beginning. Oh, but there's one city. There's something at north as well, a couple of places at the north. And there's some sinister looking dude walking about. So let's follow him and see where he went. There's Mount Colts and Saber Mountains. All kinds of characters. Yeah, he's got a nasty look. Shadow the Mercenary, or Shadow the Ninja, however you wanna call it. Oh, Assassin. Yeah, he looks very much like somebody with that name and title would be. And because of him being having that kind of introduction, and means that he is a playable character. The game isn't that subtle about who is gonna be able to appear to your dream, or yep. Somebody likes to drink cider. Well, there's inn with a guy sleeping. And Edgar decided to make a political move because of him being quite smart to notice that somebody who stole nothing of value certainly is not. Well, it looks like he didn't know that effect of the what this relic yeah, these are quite handy. That protects from different status effect items and all that kind of handy stuff. Oh yeah. But South Figaro is basically a quite friendly city or area. Nothing really, you could say, hostile appearing, people appear friendly. Very much, you could say, at the piece of civilized area. Very civilized area of the world, you could say. Nasty draft. Oh, there's a big basement in here. And a saving spot for the basement. I could say that this exploration and a big gramophone. All kinds of little interesting things, and you could say that this room was very much filled with foreshadowing elements. Heavy draft, passage behind a bookcase, and all that kind of things, which, well, kind of hint that oh, well, there will. And the music is also in this place very calm, soothing, relaxing music. Nothing really, you could say, unusual. So there's all kinds of handy stuff. And shields. All kinds of handy little equipment to get. Equipment is very handy and necessary part of this game. Way more necessary than the other Final Fantasy games. Although not as ludicrously important as in some other Final Fantasy games. Yeah, that guy's got some sort of importance or attitude. And interestingly enough, in the original version of the game, there was no special sprint. You would need to get an item which would allow you to get a sprint shoes. But in this version they've added the sprint ability, which makes of course sprint shoes themselves quite completely useless and redundant. So there's some martial artist training at Mount Goltz, which might also be the direction to go next. Go further again. Oh yeah. not much, you could say, plot events happening, but something that observant player would notice that this place would have more importance later with the big cave and all that kind of things. Ah, that's an enemy. Auto crossbow at this phase of the game is, or better say, Sabin's tool abilities at this phase of the game are ludicrously good. Duncan's cabin. So let's just go and squat in this place for a while. Have a sleep. So, judging by the foresight for foreshadowing, Sabin lived in that and is going to this direction, which might be also the moment to check out next time. But, and I will be seeing you then. I'm doing these episodes quite much at by the tone of story beats, not so much by the lengths of them. So, once again, there was some lots of plot events happening and progress, and but not so much of fighting and all that time goes. So Final Fantasy games tend to put quite lots of events at the beginning of the game, and then the pace basically quite much slows down in that sense. Although you might hasten up at the end with more events, but in this game, lots of plot happening at the beginning, first act. So see you next time. This is gonna be a long let's play, but I like to do these kinds of things anyway. See ya.